Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. You're watching In Deep on the Delta. My name's Steve Cooper, if you don't already know, and today I'm inviting you to come out with me and just follow me around on a short, we'll call it a half day on the river. I have not been on the river for about 4 days, and that's kind of odd for me. I'm back on the river now, and it's going to be just a short little milk run of areas that I normally don't fish and that I haven't fished recently, or some of the areas that I've never fished. I'm leaving from Paradise Point. I'm going to head down Disappointment Slough. I'm going to hit the channel. I'm going to go down to 14 Mile. I'm going to run around 14 Mile, and I'm going to come back in Disappointment. Again, 4 or 5 hours. Number one, I'm going to reset myself. I'm going to keep my confidence level high. And not only I'm always confident that I'm going to catch fish out here, but I am going to keep my focus at a higher level. I'm going to show you the baits that I have, and as I go through these places, I'm going to tell you why I'm using what bait and what I'm thinking why I might get a fish. Now, with the 5 rods that I'm using, 3 of them are going to be power fishing type rods, which means I'm going to be using moving baits with, and 2 of them are going to be, one's going to be a punch rod, one's going to be a worm rod. Let's go through them real quick. I have a jerk bait on this one, and this is a Stunna, just a standard jerk bait. You can substitute that with the Vision 110 or whatever, jack all, whatever you're throwing out here. I'm going to be using a white spinner bait, 1/2 ounce, tied directly to a 55-pound braid. I'm also going to be using a green jackhammer. I'm using the braid because we still have about, the water clarity is not great, so I'm tying directly to braid. I'm using these 2 baits here in conjunction. I'm going to really try to keep this bait down low in the weeds, hopefully maybe trying to represent sunfish or crayfish. This guy here, I'm going to fish in the same areas, but I'm going to fish it up on top of the weeds or maybe outside of the weed line, and I'm going to use that to try to represent bait fish of some type. And obviously in the more open water, I'll be throwing the jerk bait, trying to represent some bait fish. The other 2 rods I'll be using are slower moving baits like a punch rod and a worm rod. And punch rod, I've just got the old D-bomb sprayed grass. I'm going to be targeting fish that are in areas that have obviously floating vegetation, and I'm going to be targeting areas that have small clumps of floating vegetation. I don't plan on going out and using that punch rod in an area that I have to run 100 yards of bank. Just small little perfect locations where you can punch in. That's where I'm putting that. The other thing that I'm going to use is just a standard weightless wacky worm, and today I'm not using my standard worms. I'm using this guy here, and it is a worm from G-Crack. It's called a billow stick, and I'm going to have a video coming out on this billow stick. It's really been good for me. So I'm going to run this one just weedless wacky, and then I might put a nail weight in the head and make it a Nico rig. I'm going to start right here. Let me pull this off the pole here, and we've got a little place right here, nice little point, and there's a point right over there. That's where I'm going to start, and I'm going to fish those for maybe 5 minutes apiece, as long as they have some clear water, and we'll see what happens. Let's check it out. We have about 58, 59 degree water temperature. Air temperature is about 55. I think it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. We have a low incoming tide. Right now it's really pretty low, but it should be coming in, so we'll be fishing an incoming tide. I'm going to head out. I'm going to see what I can fish, what it looks like around these points. I'm starting off with the chatterbait because of the weeds. 5 or 6 casts with the chatterbait, nothing. So I'm going to get over here and fish closer to the tullies and see if I can pick up a fish that may be sitting in tight. All right, 4 or 5 casts with the worm. I'm not picking anything up, and I really don't like this area. It's a little bit shallow and it's a little bit weedy. So I'm going to go across, and I'm going to see if I can't pick something up off that point that's across the way. Okay, a few quick tips on just punching an area like this. That little pad, which is about the size of a Volkswagen, there's 4 spots that I want to punch in there, or 3 or 4 spots. But you'll see a tullie clump right here and a tullie clump out here. Usually between those tullie clumps, there's going to be a little channel that runs right through the middle of it. Now on this one, I don't know that it's down there, but we're just going to take this for example. So I'm going to come up here. I want to make sure that I punch right around the base of the tullies in case there's a fish holding right in tight to the base. There's another small tullie clump there that there could be a fish holding right in there. I'll punch a cast in there. And I definitely want to punch a cast somewhere where I think that channel is. Really only 3 casts, I can kind of cover that. I might also want to cover not only in the middle of it, but on the back edge of it out there. Because I can feel that there's still 2 or 3 feet of water down there. But that's all you need. On something like this, you want to hit it nice and quick and just see if something's popping in there. I'm going to fish this little channel in here. I've never fished it before. We'll see what it looks like. Okay, I didn't pick anything up right in here, and usually I would pass this up, but I'm going to show you guys something that you probably can't see on camera, and I'll tell you why I'm going up here, because there's a place that I want to fish or something I'm seeing. I'll let you in on what's up there when we get up there. Okay, here's what I'm looking at. In this particular clump of tullies, along with the next one, I was watching these as I was coming down the bank, and you can see, I hope you can see it, these tullies are moving a little bit. That's not because of the breeze. You can look at the tullies up and back. There's no breeze out here, but they're moving because there's current pushing them underneath. And it's moving those tullies just a little bit. When I saw that, I wanted to come down here and take a look at it to see what made this current come through here, because this could be the spot that you want to fish. This little area here and up at that next point. So I just wanted to point that out. Always be watching these tullies. If they're moving like this, that means the current's coming through there, and this could be a honey hole out here. So I'm going to fish between here and the next point and see if I can pick up a fish. As I'm coming across this little channel right in here, you see this inlet over here. I'm going to really be looking at my graph because I've got 2 or 3, maybe 4 foot of water in here. As I pass through here fishing that point, I'm going to look to see if there's a depression. If there's a depression right out in front of here, if it goes down to 5 or 6 feet, I know that that could be a lane for the fish that may be cruising these banks to just move on into that lane and maybe go up farther in this one little area. Now, I may not catch a fish in here today, but if I know it has a lane in here, I'll come back at a different time, maybe next summer, when the fish may be chasing bait up in there or bluegill, or there may be a lot of crayfish up in there. And this could be the one place up and down this bank that holds fish. So we're prospecting now, and I'll let you know what I'm finding. I'm getting about 2 to 3 feet of depth right in front of the trolling motor right now. Okay, I just went from about 2.5 to 4 feet deep right out in front of the boat. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting my power poles down. If you don't have power poles, you want to maybe spot lock it in or stay away from this area. If you're in a kayak, you want to sit right here and really fish this. So instead of throwing a spinnerbait out right now, I'm going to go to a slower moving bait, and I'm going to throw a worm around in there a little bit. I'm going to make sure I hit that point with the worm, and then maybe I'll follow it up with a spinnerbait or a crank, or excuse me, my chatterbait. I'm fishing this billows gill worm, and it's kind of an odd color, kind of a green, blue, something I normally don't throw out here, but I'm giving it a try. And I'm thinking along that bank right in there, if there's a fish, there should be something in there for me. There's one. That one was right up against that bank. Okay, not a huge fish, but as you can see, it took that jackhammer, and let's get him back in the water, or her. It was right up against that bank, and I don't know if you can see it, but out here on the point, I'm seeing those tullie fronds just a little bit. It's not a big tide right now. I really think when that tide gets going, you'll see those things just moving in the tide. But that's telling me that this little area in here could be a hot spot. I can see that we've got some clean water, and that goes all the way up. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to lift my power poles up, and I'm going to try to get a couple casts way back in there. Might fish around that point. Then I'm taking off, because I know this is a good looking area, and I could come back here and fish it at a different tide. So remember we talked about that 4 or 5 hour trip that I was going to do? It's going to turn into about a 45-minute trip. I'm having a little bit of a battery problem. I just put in a 36 volt lithium battery, and I'm learning how to charge it, and evidently it wasn't at charge today, and I'm out of battery. So I'm going to leave it at that, short video that I did today. I caught a fish, what the heck, but I wanted to just kind of give you guys an idea of how I'm moving around out here and what I'm doing to maybe find some new water. Make sure if you get the opportunity to check out the interview with Zach Thompson, you can kind of listen to what Zach's talking about. You'll see what I'm doing out here, and it'll help you to formulate a plan for when you come out. And again, I'm just trying to keep my focus up out here. If I had 4 or 5 hours, I'd go out and catch some fish, wade through the small fish, hopefully catch a couple of big fish, and move through new water quickly, fishing with a lot of the power baits. And power baits, I'm talking about spinner baits, bladed jigs, maybe another paddle tail swim bait, or a jerk bait, or maybe an underspin or something that you can work through quickly. And when you get into areas like this, you can slow down and then maybe do a little punching or a little worm fishing. So when I get my batteries charged up, I'll come out here and spend another half a day, 4 or 5 hours out here, and I'll condense it into what I feel are the important parts of the video, where I can offer you guys some information, and we'll do another one of these, and hopefully we'll catch a few more fish, and hopefully I'll get to stay out here for 4 or 5 hours. But there's no reason not to be out here trying, or if you're not catching fish, looking towards the future, finding new places to fish here on the Delta. So springtime comes around, you'll have a place where you can start. So thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. I'll see you guys at the next video.